Denis, such a pleasure to have you here with me today.
Likewise.
Let's start with a little bit about yourself, your school, and a little bit of background about yourself.
Okay. I'm Denis Ravizza. I'm French national. I was born in Paris, dived into graphic design, art direction, and then fashion throughout my education and my professional life in this crazy industry. And worked for numerous brands, either in America, Esprit, did art direction back in France for Dior, Jean-Paul Gaultier, and some Japanese designers as well. Back in 2003, decided to, with my wife, to come live here, because we had quite a lot of different clients which we were consulting for. Wanting to have a flair of what it would be to have a product manufactured in this region sold back in France. So they needed some French people. So we did that. And then, as I said earlier, my daughter has always wanted to be a fashion designer. Yeah. And she applied to ESMOD just before finishing her 12th grade. And she was accepted at ESMOD, but she was living in Dubai. And when we told her, okay, you've got your 12th grade diploma, now you need to go back to France to study to ESMOD, she said, no, I'm too happy here, I don't want to go back to France. Why don't you start ESMOD here? So we contacted ESMOD back in France, and who were thrilled about the idea of having people from the fashion industry managing and leading a fashion school. And we started ESMOD Dubai back in 2006. We're in Academic City. Okay. And now, 11 years later, we are still the only fashion school 100% fully dedicated to fashion in terms of drawing, collection development, production. What we do is fashion and nothing else. It's been quite a ride. Yeah. We've contributed to the economy of this country, at least in the fashion economy of this country, by producing throughout the graduates that we've had over the years, about being behind 53 to 55 new brands established, based in this region. And we launched a CSR initiative back in 2012, and that's a unique initiative worldwide. We are the only fashion school in the world having an incubator with a real retail store for our graduates. That means that any good graduates who finishes their 3 years bachelor degree program with us and who wants to start their fashion brand and start their very first collection, we put them right away into business, and we put their collection into our store, and it's non-profit based. Yeah. So literally, you're a father, you have a daughter or a son, you ask me, Denis, what you will do for my daughter after ESMOD, and I'll tell you, well, I'll put her right into business in my store.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So that's who I am and what we do.
So what do you think then it takes for, I mean, you've seen, clearly you're in business, what, 12 years? So you've seen hundreds and hundreds of graduates go through your doors. What do you think it is that sets apart, let's say, from emerging designers? What do you think that gives them the unique advantage over, let's say, their contemporaries in order to achieve the success that they're looking for?
You mean success, like in this region or worldwide?
We can focus on this. Yeah, I'm interested actually, but let's take it from two angles there. Yeah.
Well, what makes the success of an emerging designer? First, the success doesn't come immediately. What comes immediately is the challenging, the challenges of this industry, and it takes about 5 years for an emerging talent to be at least spotted by buyers and being able to be on the market. I'm not talking yet about profit, but you've got to build up your brand, you have to source your fabric, you have to build up a production atelier if you have the financial means to do it. If you don't, you have to find an atelier that can produce the garments for you as per your requirements. Then we fall into the problem of rare are the ateliers that have the training for pattern making. So if you do not know how to make patterns, then you struggle by having to train people who don't know. Yes. So production is a headache. We've solved that. We have solved this because we are supporting our graduates with also production. based on the same technique. But then again, you've got to make yourself known. So what makes somebody be known quickly, if possible, it's by being different. You don't want to design something which looks like what's there already, because what's there already is there already, and customers are buying it from people they know and they trust. I mean, who are you? You're new and you're doing something similar. I don't trust you, I don't buy. So you've got to be different. You've got to design things differently. You've got to be daring. You've got to be patient. And you've got to make sure that you design what you feel and that you are not being guided by customers. I mean by this that particularly in this region, which originally the act of having somebody made for you was I am the client, I go see a designer and I tell the designer you will do this. And this is either a photo of a garment which I like, or you will tell the designer, I want you to put this here and here and there. Well, then you are being there guided by the client who decides. A designer is not that. I mean, the same client would go in my country and tell a designer, you're going to do that for me. The designer would open the door and say, sorry, madam, you came to the wrong place. I designed for you. I don't design what you want.
Right.
So you've got to try to avoid this. It's difficult because obviously when a client puts thousands of dirham on the table and tells you you're going to do that, otherwise I'll go somewhere else. Sometimes you do have to accept. So you've got to manage that. Patience again, because you have to make yourself known. And today we are in a digital age where not only you have to know how to design, how to produce, how to be able to present yourself, to show yourself to the world. You have to know the technique of multimedia, of social media, how things work, posting, tagging, socializing.
That's important though for a young designer, right? To build their own personal brand as well.
It's enormous. It's enormous. Due to the fact that there are so little number of shops that can actually host collections of emerging designers to sell it, there has been a quite large trend where the designers decided to actually sell their garments online, and not initially even on a website, but selling them through Instagram.
Yes.
So here is what I do. You like it, contact me, I'll sell it to you. So direct...
Do you think that's developed because, let's say, if you look at this region specifically, setting up a store is not as simple a process as back in Europe.
Yeah.
You have your licensing, your fees, municipality, everybody gets involved and everyone requires to be paid. Back home, you get a lease and you set up and you're ready to go.
Exactly.
Do you think that's created a different environment for designers trying to break out here as opposed to back in Europe?
Yes, yes, it does. It does. Yeah. I find the process here to be quite time-consuming. Lots of administrative, steps that needs to go through, and having a store here and a license and the expenses, which are around all of what you have to pay, already puts you into trouble right from the start. That's obviously not what you wish in life. That's why we started the incubator and the retail store. I mean, we take on this headache for them, and I would say that's the least we can do. Yeah. But definitely, I mean, if you want to avoid all of these administrative and expenses and charges, recurring charges that come as one package right from the start, you're better off, being at home, designing your garment, making small collections, advertising them on social media. Push the post, pay a little bit for it, get some return. I like it. Can you make it for me? Here is the price. You produce one single garment, you ship it, done. Yeah. So faster, less expenses, less headache. But then, how serious is that?
It's difficult to scale.
You cannot scale it. Or you scale it after.
Yeah.
There are, today...
It brings its own set of challenges if you focus on a pure online.
Yeah. There's not only one way to make business today.
Yeah.
Some choose one direction, choose another one, which is wider and more established, but they have to have financial backup, investors, not everybody can can get an investor and a financial backup immediately.
Yeah. There's something I want to kind of go into then with a little bit, particularly given that ESMOD, as you said, has an incubator. You find some of the design schools around the world getting accused of, shipping out technically proficient designers that are good at what they do from a design perspective, but completely lack the business skills to actually get their collections off the ground and establish their name. Yeah. How do you see that playing out in the next few years? Is this a challenge you think that's going to continue? Will design schools continue to get away with this? Or what's the solution to a problem?
Fashion is a business. Being talented is not enough. Yeah. Be creative is not enough. There's a huge part that needs to be acquired in order to understand what's going on in terms of managing your brand, either in terms of administration and in terms of everything which is outside of the design area. What about marketing, branding, merchandising? So it's always I believe necessary that somebody who follows a fashion design program must afterwards follow a fashion marketing and fashion business program. We offer that as well. Yeah. It's a short program, it's a 9-month program, quite intensive. But you need to learn about who are your competitors, what they do, how are they set up, where do you place yourself in this market. You have to have these skills of fashion business and fashion marketing. Being only a good designer, creative, and not understanding, what the world is today, and the fashion industry is extremely competitive. It will be hard to survive. You have to have, you need to be business savvy, marketing savvy. Everything is interacts.
On that note, then, let's say as one final question, what do you think, or what advice would you give a designer that is, or not a designer, but somebody who's thinking about going into design, that wants to establish the brand, they've got that dream? What advice would you give them?
The first advice which I will give them if they're from this region is to come to my university.
Okay.
Because I'm certain, and that's what I tell them, you have my word. You're going to know how to be creative and you'll know how to be technical. And all the brands who want to hire you will catch you. Now, if you want to start your brand, you are at least prepared and trained to be able to build up a team which you will train yourself in case you needed it. The advice which I give, the first one is that. But if it was, if my message was sent out to the world, do get the right education when you want to become a fashion designer. Because if you simply think that you have good or decent ideas and you know how to sketch, that you can pretend that you are a designer, you are simply not one. It's creativity and technique. Without technique, you're not a designer. And why? Because when you create and when you design your very first collection, if you want your brand and your collection and your style to evolve, and the garment to become something that you are dreaming of achieving, that achievement goes 100% through the technique. You cannot make a garment evolve into something more creative or different if you do not know technically how to do it. So then you're going to say, yeah, but I'll give that to a tailor. But tailors are not pattern makers. They don't know how to understand your vision and turn it into something that can be produced. So there's no choice. And I see it. And I see it. The ones who are not technical are not evolving. They always do the same thing. And then it dies out because the new ones who have technique are able to come up with something different, something new, and evolve. Because today we are looking for creativity. The market worldwide has enough of these large brands that do great stuff, but you could be dressed like me, or I could be dressed like you, and we would actually get the garments from the same brands. I will not name them. Customers, clients are looking for individuality. They are looking for something which is different. So we are in a phase. I would say probably for the past 3 years, and it's going to continue to grow. We are in a phase worldwide where the focus is on individuality, emerging designers who are creative and different, who can produce things very well in small quantity at a good price, not over the top, that you can afford. Therefore, you are dressed differently than another.
Yes.
And that's where the market has been going.
Okay.
Indeed, because we want to keep our individuality.
Yes.
That is back.
Excellent. Denis, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
Cheers. Thank you.